On this big story, I'm being joined by Clifford Young, the president of Ipsos, Washington, D.C. He's joining from Washington, D.C. Mr. Clifford, the latest job report of the U.S. government shows that 73,000 jobs added in July, with big downwardly revision for May and June. Is this slowdown a direct result of President Donald Trump's tariff, or other factors are at play?
Well, that's a difficult one to determine, but what we can say is it's not good for him long term. Indeed, his approval ratings, which are very important from a political perspective, that say a lot about whether he can push the agenda forward, have been relatively stable, relatively strong. He's in a better position than he was in 2017. But we're seeing weakening around the edges. There are storm clouds on the horizons. He has declined faster than the historic average at 6 months. The historic average is 5 points approval rating. He's at 8. Probably this has to do with fear about tariffs. But once again, cause and effect is difficult, but this is not good for him looking forward.
But Mr. Young, President Donald Trump is pushing tariff to boost U.S. manufacturing sector. But what we are seeing is that the factory jobs have dropped to 11,000 last month. So are these policies backfiring, or is it too early to judge their success?
Well, I think most economists would say that these sorts of policies would take a long time, longer than a few months, obviously. It takes a lot to uproot a factory one place and implant a factory in the United States. From a public opinion standpoint, Americans are really worried about tariffs in general. There's lots of trepidation and unease. However, that said, when you ask them about bringing jobs back or manufacturing industry back, there's a majority of Americans that believe that. And this is what Trump is actually playing into right now, this belief among a majority of Americans that in the long term, not necessarily short term, but in the long term, tariffs will have a positive impact on America.
Mr. Young, your recent Reuters Ipsos poll found that 70% of the Americans expect tariff to hike prices. How much are these concerns affecting the public confidence in President Donald Trump's economic strategies?
Yeah, well, I don't believe much, at least in the long term. Without a doubt, public opinion in America associates tariffs with inflation. It's highly inflationary in Americans' minds. What we can say is a few months ago, when Trump first was pushing his tariff agenda, it was creating lots of friction, lots of worry. He pulled back. And so at least in the short term, we've seen some effect on his own behavior and how he's managed this agenda. But I really think that he and his administration are thinking in long-term goals, and they will take whatever it costs in the short term to implement the policy to get this return in the long term.
A very last question before I let you go. That with the U.S. economy growing at a sluggish 1.2% in the first half of 2025, do you think that President Donald Trump's tariff-driven trade war is delivering the economic edge, what he promised, or is it creating more uncertainties?
Yeah, again, it's short versus long term. There are a lot of arguments about the long term potential benefits of tariffs. Let's set that aside. In the short term, it's creating lots of chaos, lots of uncertainty. And I believe the economic numbers we're seeing today are a function and part of this uncertainty, not just among the American public or among households, but among American business leaders who are pulling back on investments, who are careful how they spend. So yes, there is an effect on behavior, individual and company behavior in the United States in the short term.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clifford Young, for joining us and sharing your perspective and especially your comment about the U.S. economy and its outlook.